So turn in your Bibles to Exodus chapter 33. We're going to look at Exodus 33 and 34. Most of you know my hometown is back in Washington State. I grew up there, Leavenworth, Washington. I've brought back pictures before. And it's like a town of about 5,000 people nestled in this small little valley surrounded by these jagged mountains. And it has such an alpine look in Europe that they've styled it Bavarian, Southern German. Because it's beautiful in winter, spring, fall, summer. My favorite one was winter because there's so many fun things to do. Believe it or not, hiking, skiing, tubing down the river. I love the place. But the things changed recent, 2012, my father passed away. And just last year, November, my mom passed away. So much of what gave my hometown the charm, I'm finding, was mom and dad. And because dad used to take me and the kids fishing, he would arrange for rafting trips in the afternoon. Then we'd play games, card games at night, like Rook. He was super avid about Rook. I don't know if any of you played Rook. And then he would get us tickets to The Sound of Music because they would reenact it in this Bavarian village, And mom would be cooking up great food, endless snacks. She would always be in the living room, an ever-present, comfort with cup in hand and book open. She was always there. But going back in July, as we do every year, without them was a bit strange. Still a beautiful place. My brother and sister live there. So there is something that anchors me. But I'm realizing mom and dad not being there is kind of strange because it's not really the beauty that I go back for, because I could go to Banff National Park, right? If I wanted to see beauty or the great, other parks like that. You realize that there's certain things that make something special. And in our passage in Exodus 33 to 34, Moses is given a chance to go to the promised land and being led there by an angel instead of the Lord. And Moses said, "Not without you, O God. Not without you. It's not the same without you." And I love that. God promises, even after the worshiping of this golden calf, the rebellion that happened, and Moses trying to intercede for the people, God said, no, I will not go with you. And Moses is brokenhearted, and he said, if your presence will not go with me, do not send me up from here. Again, not without you, O God. Promised land doesn't have the charm without you. Without you. And I wonder at times that many of us would be fine maybe getting out of the desert, owning a plot of land, and even if it's just an angel that's going to guide us, just get me out of this place and put it in our 21st century. If God promised to fix our marriage, straighten out our kids, give us $25,000 more a year, but, he would send an angel instead, would we be okay with that? Or how about this? Would you be okay if God said, you're going to have the good life on earth, and I'll keep you out of hell, and I'll give you paradise, but I'm not going to be there? Because God told Moses, I can get you to the promised land flowing with milk and honey and fight your enemies, but I'm not going with you. To which Moses said, not without you. I don't want to go if you're not going with. Exodus chapter 33, let's read it. I will not read the whole thing. The Lord said to Moses, depart, go up from here, you and the people whom I brought out of the land, that you have brought out of the land of Egypt, to the land which I swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, to your offspring I will give it. I will send an angel before you, and I will drive out the Canaanites and the Amorites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites. Go up to a land flowing with milk and honey, that I will not go up among you, lest I consume you on the way, for you are a stiff-necked people. When the people heard this disastrous word, they mourned, and no one put on their ornaments. For the Lord said to Moses, say to the people of Israel, you are stiff-necked people. If for a single moment I would go up among you, I would consume you. So now take off your ornaments, that I may know what to do with you. Therefore the people of Israel stripped themselves of ornaments from Mount Horeb onward. That would have been earrings and nose rings and bracelets and necklaces and things like that. Now Moses used to take the tent and pitch it outside the camp, far off from the camp, and he called it the tent of meeting. And whoever sought the Lord would go out to the tent of meeting, which was outside the camp. The first thing to see is that sin separates. Sin separates. You know, we had the blueprints just before this in chapter 25 to 31 that the camp was going to be, the tent was going to be right in the center. But after the golden calf incident, where they were worshiping a gold calf and saying that this God took them out of Egypt, God was ready to consume them and start over with Moses. Moses then intercedes and says, no, don't do that. God said, okay, I won't, but I'm not going with. And watch Moses. He's going to push so that God does come with. He's just so eager. I love that. He says, I'm not going with you because if I did, this is God, you would be consumed. I think we need to hear that. Sin separates us from God. Separates us from God. And in the end, if we're separated from the God of life, we will die. And not only physical death, but spiritual death, separation from him for all eternity. Because sin separated Adam and Eve from God's presence in the garden, didn't it? And it sent Cain, he had to separate himself from his family because he was cast east of Eden. And if something like the golden calf happened while God was literally in the camp, he's saying, I would consume you. It would not be a good thing. And you're trying to okay, let me try to get a handle on this. So an angel is okay, but not God. Not God going with. Well, a couple of things I would say. So some of you know about this passage, but you may not know that it's in Habakkuk. Say that 3 times. Habakkuk. Okay. Habakkuk chapter 1, verse 13 says that God is too pure to look upon sin. You're trying well, what does that mean? Because he would judge it immediately. Okay? There is a sense where it's so offensive to him, he would take that person out. God is too pure to look upon evil, which means judgment would happen immediately. Now, I know that the devil stood before God in his presence in Job, the book of Job, but his doom is appointed. He just gets a little bit of a leash until the time of his destruction and doom. But why can a holy angel lead them but not God himself? And the only thing I don't think it's my beard, but oh well. The only thing that I can guess is the intensity of his glory. Like angels, I don't think have the intensity of glory that God himself, right? As everyone would nod their head. Because I think of Luke chapter 2. Remember when the angel came to the shepherds and it says that the glory of the Lord shone about. It didn't say the glory of the angel shone about. It was the glory of the Lord. They were reflecting the glory of God. They were derivative of the blazing glory of God. Kind of like the moon is to the sun. The moon glows and reflects the sun in the same way that the angel is reflecting the glory of God. If the direct glory of God was in the camp, they would not be able to stand it. Why? Because he says, you're stiff-necked. You're stiff-necked. Well, what would that mean? Well, you're stubborn. You're self-willed. You're unteachable. You know, some of us wear that like a badge, like tough girl, tough guy. That's not helpful in your walk with the Lord. Teachable, humble, pliable. Those are the things that God wants in your heart. Because there's going to be separation from God when your life consists of sin. And you will have consequences for that sin if you continue down that path. When the people heard it, they mourned. They took off, all their jewelry as a sign of sorrow and humility. There was a separation from God because of their sin. Further, the tent of meeting, it's a picture of separation, right? Like those 7 chapters that the tabernacle was going to be in the middle of camp, now it's what? Outside of camp. It's at a place where people can see it. They can see it. But you realize that the tent of meeting is outside the camp. And but because of the covenant God made with the people, he's going to get them to the promised land, but not in the preferable way. He's going to send an angel, not God. And again, I think too many of us would be satisfied with that. Just get me out. I need a hot bath and a hot meal. I don't care. Get me out of the desert. Not Moses. Not without you, oh God. Not without you. See, I would say you might be the Lord's and end up in heaven one day. But some of you will forfeit so much blessing along the way because you prefer a few golden calves. Sin will separate. It might not be ultimate separation, but you're not going to enjoy the fullness of a relationship with God if it's tough guy, tough girl, stiff-necked, self-willed, stubborn person. That's not the description you want describing him. Sin separates from God. But did you notice Moses has access? Of all the people, Moses has access. That's point number 2. He has access. Let me read further. Now Moses used to take a tent and pitch it outside the camp, far from the camp. And he called it the tent of meeting, and everyone who sought the Lord would go out to the tent of meeting, which was outside the camp. Whenever Moses went out to the tent, all the people would rise up. Each would stand at his tent door and watch Moses until he had gone into the tent. When Moses entered the tent, the pillar of cloud would descend and stand at the entrance of the tent, and the Lord would speak to Moses. And when all the people saw the pillar of the cloud standing at the entrance of the tent, all the people would rise up and worship, each at his tent door. Thus the Lord used to speak to Moses face to face, as a man speaks to his friend. When Moses turned again into the camp, his assistant Joshua, the son of Nun, a young man, would not depart from the tent. Now, I don't know if he was on guard. I don't know if it's kind of like Psalm 84. I would just like to be a doorkeeper in the household of my God because he really wanted to be there. I don't know. But Moses had access even beyond Aaron, his brother, who was the high priest. I mean, no one saw what Moses saw. No one was allowed on the mountain as high as Moses. Some got to see a little glimpse, like the elders of Israel got to see a little bit, but Moses was the one when the cloud descended on the mountain and the blazing inferno and trumpet blasts and the earthquake was going on. He went into the cloud. Only Moses went into that cloud. And he was the one that came down with the tablets of the covenant. And here in this chapter, he alone is meeting with God. Moses had access. And it says he had a relationship, a face-to-face relationship with him. Now, I don't know about you, but it makes me think, well, wait a minute. I thought no one could see God's face and what? And live. Well, he's not going to get to see the face of God. So what is being described here? Because in chapter 34, God is not going to allow him to see his face, as we will see. I believe he's talking about the kind of relationship that Moses had, unlike anybody else. It was like a face-to-face relationship, like a friend. They had conversations. He had conversations with God. You know, back in Exodus 3, God called Moses to deliver the people, not Aaron. It was only after Moses had every excuse in the world that he finally said, fine, I'll give you your brother. And, you know, his brother made a mess of things with the golden calf. But Aaron went with, but it was Moses who had that kind of access, that special relationship. God gave him access. And when Moses went out to the tent, the pillar of cloud would descend, and all the people would rise up, stand on their porch and watch. They watched the glory descend. They could not help themselves. They would have to get up, get out on the porch of their tent and watch, because they could see it on the horizon. Moses is going out there, and a cloud would come down, and they were like blown away. Probably to set aside Moses as the leader, but it was God's choice, Moses and no one else. But Moses would go and intercede for the people. He would intercede for the people. That's why they're still alive. Moses is interceding for them. He's saying, not an angel, please not an angel. I'm not going unless you go. And we'll see God relents and says, I'll go. He is an interceder like Jesus. He is a type of Jesus because we have no access to the glory of God. If we went to the glory of God, if we had an audience with God, we would be incinerated by the glory. You cannot come near without an interceder, without a mediator, without an advocate. But not everyone appreciated that. You know that Moses' brother Aaron and his sister Miriam got jealous. And I have you see this to set up the last point, because I want you to see how special Moses' relationship was with God. Turn to Numbers chapter 12. Numbers chapter 12. Aaron and Miriam got sideways. They got jealous. They got irritated with Moses, thought that Moses was just kind of, puffing himself up. Verse 2, they, Aaron and Miriam, said, has the Lord indeed spoken only through Moses? Has he not spoken through us also? And the Lord heard it. Now the man Moses was very meek. He was humble, more than all the people who were on the face of the earth. And suddenly the Lord said to Moses and to Aaron and to Miriam, come out, you three, to the tent of meeting. And the three of them came out. And the Lord came down in the pillar of cloud and stood at the entrance of the tent and called Aaron and Miriam. And they both came forward, and he said, hear my words. If there is a prophet among you, I, the Lord, make himself known to him in a vision. I speak with him in a dream. Not so with my servant Moses. He is faithful in all my house. With him I speak mouth to mouth, clearly and not through riddles. And he beholds the form of the Lord. Why then were you afraid to speak against my servant Moses? And the anger of the Lord was kindled against them, and he departed. And when the cloud removed from over the tent, behold, Miriam was leprous, like snow. And Aaron turned toward Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. Now, I don't know why Miriam over Aaron. Maybe she said more than Aaron. But you understand, there was a relationship with Moses unlike anybody else. So let me read now the next section. verse 13. Now, therefore, if I have found favor in your sight, this is the Lord, and this is Moses imploring the Lord, please show me your ways that I may know in order to find favor in your sight. Consider too that this people, this nation is your people. And he said, my presence will go with you and I will give you rest. So there is the granting of the request. And he said to him, if your presence will not go with me, do not bring me up from here. So Moses is pressing. Not without you, O God. For how shall it be known that I have found favor in your sight, I and your people? Is it not that you're going with us so that we are distinct, I and your people, from every other people on the face of the earth? And the Lord said to Moses, this very thing you have spoken, I will do. For you have found favor in my sight, and I know you by name. And Moses said, please show me your glory. I'm like, what else is there to see? I mean, think about all that he has seen, and he wants more. My third point, better than the promised land, because he says, if you don't go with, I don't want to go. Not without you, oh God. You are better than the promised land. And Moses is right. The best gift that you and I will ever get, is a relationship with God himself. Period. Now that's going to have good results in your life because of the Spirit of God within you will make you humble, loving, honest. You will see the benefit in your life. You'll be a happier person. Your marriage will benefit. Your friendships will deepen. Nevertheless, these things cannot be what we're aiming at. God is. And I fear some of you, that statement means nothing. It's hard to compute. Like, why make such a big deal about that distinction? I'll tell you. Because we live in a corrupt world where friendships break down and bodies break. And you will not be protected from some of the pain and suffering in this world. Not until Christ comes back. And I've seen people walk away from Christ when hardships flatten them. God was not the gift they prized most, which became evident when their marriage failed, when their mom died, or when he took away their boyfriend. It's as if they would say, if you take away my boyfriend, I don't want to talk to you ever again. Now, if that's the case, what's most important to her? God or boyfriend? And see, that's why in every good thing in life, we don't love it for itself. We love it unto God. The greatest moments around a dinner table, your family and loved ones are around, or you share a real intimate time with your spouse. It's like, that can't be what you think God, it's got to go all the way up to God. Otherwise, we then have an attachment to the things of the world. And when they're taken away, then what? It's got to be God. And you must cultivate your soul so you don't have Velcro hands on the things of this world. Because it's like that song. If God takes away a relationship, when I am alone, oh, when I am alone, when I am alone, what? Give me Jesus, give me Jesus, give me Jesus. Oh, I didn't get up high enough. You can have all, there it is. You can have all this world, but give me Jesus. Now, we're people of earth, so the things that are closest to us are things of earth. And things of the world we can prize too much, and we'll go up and down on this throughout our life, but we should always come back. Like, I repent of loving this too much. It's you, God. It's you, God. It's you, God. I don't want to go unless you're going with. I don't want the promised land or the great family if that means without you. You are the prize above all other things. John Piper, in his book, Desiring God, spoke about our tendency to be satisfied with the things of the world and accept God, instead of God. And he says this: the irony of our human condition is that God has put us in sight of the Himalayas of his glory in Jesus Christ, but we have chosen to pull down the shades of our chalet and show slides of Buck Hill, even in the church. Now, let me give a little explanation, because the Himalayas are the greatest mountain range on the planet. That's Mount Everest, which is the tallest, is part of the Himalayan range. And Buck Hill, I looked it up, Mr. Danielson, it's in Minneapolis. It's in Minneapolis. It's like this little hill. And so he's saying, if we're in range of the glories of God in Jesus Christ, like the Himalayan range, and yet we pull down the shades and we're all satisfied with things that are of less value. And we even do that in the church. It's like, shame on us when the glories of God are right before us and we have access to them. And Moses begs God to accompany them to the promised land, and God's response is, I will go with. And then Moses pushes further. Then show me your glory. And God honored that request, honored that hunger with a few provisos, like, you can't see my face. Even you, Moses, you can't see my face. I'm going to put you in a cleft of a rock or a fissure or a crack. Can you see him? Stuffed into a little crack in a big old boulder. And God's going to pass by, and God's going to put up his hand to shield the glory until he's passed. And then you can look, Moses. Now, again, we're trying to understand that kind of language. So, fading glory or less intense glory, I guess, because the Lord asked him, chapter 34, cut for yourself 2 tablets of stone like the first, and I will write on the tablets of the words that were on the first tablet, which you broke. Be ready in the morning and come up the morning to Mount Sinai and present yourself there to me on top of the mountain. No one shall come up with you, and no one be seen throughout all the mountain. Let no flocks or herds gaze opposite of the mountain. So Moses cut the 2 tablets of stone like the first, and he rose up early in the morning and went to Mount Sinai. I mean, nobody could come up with him on this one. And even if there was a mountainside, he said, I don't even want them to be able to see what I'm going to show you. See, it's incredible what God allows him to see. Now, listen to how it shakes out. Verse 5, the Lord descended in a cloud and stood with him there and proclaimed the name of the Lord. The Lord passed before him and proclaimed, the Lord, a God merciful and gracious, slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness, keeping steadfast love for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, but who will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children and the children's children to the 3rd and 4th generation. And Moses quickly bowed his head toward the earth and worshiped. And he said, if now I have found favor in your sight, O Lord, please let the Lord go in the midst of us, for it is a stiff-necked people, and pardon our iniquity and our sin, and take us for your inheritance. I mean, he's not letting up. Even though the Lord said yes, he's going to go after it. Moses saw and heard glory. He saw probably a blinding light, right? But then it was spoken. Interesting. And it was, Moses was the first to hear his personal name back in Exodus 3. My name is, remember he asked, well, who shall I say sent us? And God said, I am, or Yahweh. I am who I am. I am the self-existent one. Everything has its life or is sustained by me. I'm the nucleus of everything. I mean, we can't even get our minds around that one. Everything exists because of God. He is the power source, And then he starts talking about things that we can relate to more. His mercy and his grace. Why do we know these things? Because we know imperfect things, and we can imagine what the perfect would be. Because we know we have to have grace given to us. We need people to forgive us, because there's no lasting relationships without forgiveness. Compassion, mercy, grace. See, we need that. We need the patience of others, and we can kind of imagine if I need it and I have benefited from patience, love, forgiveness, I can imagine what the perfect would be. That's the only way. We get on our tippy toes to try to understand these things. He is loving, and then it says he is just. He will not let the guilty go unpunished. And it all sounds good until that one, and it's like, wah, wah. But think about it again. You might think differently when you experience terrible injustices happening. When you experience terrible injustice, not that your TV doesn't work, I mean terrible injustices, you will be thankful that there's a God who will be the judge of all, and nothing will be missed. We don't have to give vengeance or give rise to vengeance. No, we know that vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. He's going to do it. And Moses, when he hears all this, he bows his head to the earth and worships. I mean, wouldn't you? I would. Whew. And when he finally arrives back at camp, this is kind of humorous. Chapter 34, verse 30. Aaron and all the people of Israel saw Moses, and behold, the skin of his face shone. And they were afraid to come near him. It's like the worst sunburn ever. Except he's glowing. And Moses called to them, and Aaron and all the leaders of the congregation returned to him, and Moses talked with them. Okay, he's still alive. It seems like he's the same. Afterward, all the people of Israel came near, and he commanded them all that what the Lord had spoken to him in the Mount Sinai. And when Moses had finished speaking with them, he put a veil over his face. It was just weird. He looked like a jack-o'-lantern, just glowing. Because he had never been that close to the Lord. So he had a serious glory burn, or I love what God has given to us in Jesus Christ. He's given us access way beyond Moses. Do you understand that? And every Wednesday, every first Wednesday of every month, we have prayer meetings. And I'm telling you, it's a taste of heaven. It's a taste of glory. When we linger in the presence of the Lord, worship explodes. Our voices are so loud, so triumphant, so joyful, because we have seen and experienced the glory of God through Jesus Christ. And yeah, every Christian has that access. Not all of us take that access seriously. It's wide open, brothers and sisters. Wide open, not just on Wednesday nights, right? You, in prayer, in God's word, you get to see glory and experience glory. And especially when you're with the people of God and you hear God's word being preached and you're singing, it's another dimension altogether. But you cannot see glory without a profound change going on in your heart by the Spirit of God. You can't even see it without Jesus Christ. Because he says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the except through me. Note that Moses had to be hidden in that crack of the rock. Can you see him? He's kind of tucked in there. I love that. Interestingly, 1 Corinthians 10, verse 3 and 4, it says, all the people were baptized into Moses. So they identified with his leadership. in the cloud and in the sea, and all ate the same spiritual food, and all drank the same spiritual drink, for they drank from the spiritual rock that followed them. And the rock was Christ. How do we understand that? Well, Christ was the ultimate provision in the wilderness. Because of the cross of Christ, mercy, grace, forgiveness goes backward and forward into the future. So they were allowed all those things ultimately because of Christ. No sin has ever been passed over. It will be paid in hell or on the cross. Put your faith in the cross, brothers and sisters. And I love the image that Moses is tucked in the rock from the glory of God, because ultimately the rock of protection is who? It's Jesus. And there he is, tucked in there, because Jesus is the way to the Father, and no one comes without him. No one. No one. You run to Jesus. Rest, trust, rely completely on the work of Jesus. Now, Christian, I'm going to land the plane, but there's some verses I want you to see because it's just profound. Turn to John chapter 1. And just get ready to be blown away with this in the background. John chapter 1, verse 14. We've been given so much access through Jesus Christ. It says in verse 14, and the Word that spoke the world into existence, became flesh and dwelt among us. And look at the words here. We have seen his glory. Glory as the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. Drop down to 18, verse 18. No one has ever seen God. The only God who is at his Father's side. Well, wait a minute. The only God who's at his Father's side. He has made him known. It's talking about Jesus. No one has seen God, the only God who's at his Father's side. He has made him known. That means when God tabernacled among us, Jesus Christ, for 33 years, people could see. And after he died and resurrected, now we hear the glory of God. Hear the word. I think of John chapter 14. Got to go there too. John chapter 14. Come on. Here they're in the upper room. It's the night before the crucifixion. And Jesus says, let not your heart be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. In my Father's house there are many rooms. If it were not so, I would have told you that I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go, I prepare a place for you, I will come again and take you to myself, that where I am, you may be also. And you know the way where I'm going. And Thomas says, Lord, we don't know where you're going. How can we know the way? And here's the context. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you had known me, you would have known my Father also. And now, from now on, you do know him and have seen him. And Philip is still befuddled. He says, Lord, just show us the Father, and it's enough for us. And Jesus said to him, have I been with you so long, and you still do not know, Philip? Whoever has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, show us the Father? Do you not believe that I am in the Father and the Father is in me? The words that I say to you, I do not speak on my own authority, but the Father who dwells in me does his work. Who does his work? Believe me that I am in the Father and the Father is in me, and or else believe on account of the works themselves. We have been given so much access into God through Jesus Christ. More than Moses. And you think of all that Moses saw, we have greater access, people. One last verse, 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 7 and 8. I'll just read it. You can go look at it. Now, if the ministry of death carved in letters on stone came with such glory that the Israelites could not gaze at Moses' face because of its glory. Okay, stop right there. Ministry of death? Well, the law, because we sin, brings death. So in a sense, it is a ministry of death, but it came with such glory that the Israelites could not gaze on Moses' face. It's reflecting glory off his face because of his glory, which was being brought to an end. Will not the ministry of the Spirit have even more glory? We're talking about the new covenant, and we're all part of the new covenant who trust in Jesus Christ. So my final thing I would want to say is, no more slides of Buck Hill when the Himalayas of God's glory are accessible to us. Press in to know God, just like Perry read in James chapter 4. If you draw near to God, he draws near to you. And we have just begun to see glory. One day, the Lord's going to split the sky. You wait. Bow your heads.